This video will show the installation procedure for an Arbors Direct freestanding fiberglass pergola. The following tools are required for the installation. You will need a 6-foot folding ladder, a hammer drill with a 5/8 inch concrete drill bit, 13/16 inch wrench, cordless drill with number 2 square driver bit, 5/16 inch socket head bit, 3/8 inch socket head bit, 3/16 inch drill bit, 15/16 inch socket wrench, pliers or vice grips, and a hammer. Next, you will need to determine the column center locations. The drawings that you received state the center points for your columns. Take a minute to study the dimensional drawings that correspond with your particular pergola design before moving forward with the installation. Make sure your footings project a minimum of 1 inch past the outside wall column on all sides. In northern climates, the footings will need to be deep enough to reach below frost depth in accordance with your local building codes. The composition of the concrete needs to be at least 2000 psi. A continuous slab should be a minimum of 4.5 inches thick. Use the hammer drill with a 5/8 inch masonry drill bit to a depth of 4.5 inches. You will need to remove the dust from the hole using a shop vac or using compressed air. This will ensure the anchor is seated correctly and does not pull out upon tightening. Now, use the hammer to tap the wedge anchor into the hole. Be careful not to damage the sides of the anchor, which will compromise the threads. Once the anchor has been driven to a depth of at least 4.5 inches, use the 15/16 inch socket wrench to tighten the nut down to the footing surface. You should feel the anchor grabbing the sides of the hole and locking into place. Test this by pulling upwards on the anchor. No movement should occur. Now, install the coupler on top of the anchor. There should be half of the coupler left to receive the 5/8 inch all-thread rod. Center the columns over the couplers and ensure that all sides of the column are flat against the footing. It is very important that the column is not point loaded. If the footings or slab has an irregular surface, the column will not provide the proper support in high winds. The column should rest on the solid flat concrete footing or continuous slab. If pavers, tile or stone are present, they must be removed to allow space for the column to rest on the sub-foundation or footing, and then placed back around the outside of the column shaft. Now, locate the long 5/8 inch threaded rods. A ladder will be very useful for this step. While standing on the ladder, insert the end of the galvanized all-thread rod down through the column and turn to insert it into the coupler on top of the anchor. You may need a flashlight or headlamp to shine down to the bottom of the column in order to see the coupler. Cut the tops of the columns to the necessary length if it is resting on a seat wall or bar top. Now, you will attach a coupler to the top of the 5/8 inch threaded rods and insert the 3 inch length of stainless steel all-thread into the coupler. Tighten the anchor rods into the anchor couplers with a pair of pliers. After following this procedure for all of the column and anchor rods, you are ready to slide the bases over the column shafts and allow them to rest on the ground. The next step is to locate the column caps with the aluminium plates and angle or parallel flanges rising up. Place these caps on top of the column so the all-thread rods go through the hole in the middle of the plate. We have also found that the column can be raised off the ground by one person, while another person sets wood or concrete blocks on 3 sides of the column to support it whilst holding the column at the same time. This allows another person to reach in and guide the all-thread rod into the coupler from the ground. Please take extra care that the column will not fall off the blocks and another person is supporting the column from shifting whilst doing this. Tilting the top plate or cap with the column will help guide the all-thread rod through the hole. Place the flat washer onto the rods and then thread the nut on top and only finger tighten the nut at this point. Orient the angle so it will receive the rafter support and headers from the outside. If you have a double rafter support, your plates will look like this, with two fins rising up instead of a 90-degree angle. The double rafter supports will install to the outside of the double fins as shown here. Use the 2.5-inch long hex head stainless steel screws with the 3/8-inch socket head bit to secure the rafter support. The double rafter supports will install to the outside of the double fins as shown here. Use the 2.5-inch long hex head stainless steel screws with the 3/8-inch socket head bit to secure the rafter support. Rafter support beams will have the U-shaped channels already applied on top of the beams to receive the rafters, and headers to the aluminium plates. These are self-tapping screws and will require some force to drive them through the outside of the beams and through the aluminium plate. Make sure to set the clutch on the drill so you do not over-tighten the screws. The beams should not divot when tightening. If they do, just back out the screw slightly. Drive at least 2 screws through each of the rafter supports and header beams as shown here. Once all of the rafter supports and headers are installed, you will now install the rafters with decorative tails into the U-shaped channels on top of the support beams as shown. Starting from the middle of the pergola, place rafters into the slots and drive the 3/4-inch hex head with the 5/16-inch socket bit through the holes in the brackets into each side of the rafters. Ensure the rafters are uniformly installed so all of the ends of the tails line up with each other. After all of the rafters have been installed, you are now ready to apply the purlin to the top of the rafters. You will find pencil marks on top of the rafters which designate the outside edges for the purlin to line up with as shown here. Drive the 2.5-inch stainless steel self-tapping screws with the number 2 square drive bit down from the top middle of each purlin into the rafters at each intersection. After all of the purlin have been secured, you may now go back and tighten the nut on top of each all-thread rod with the 15/16-inch deep well ratchet or open end socket wrench. At this point, the pergola installation is complete.